Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Yes, James Gunn fires The Rock as Black Adam and confirms there are active projects in development for the Elseworld. So that will be away from James Gunn's and Peter Safran's DC Universe. I talk about how this is very hypocritical and ironic, considering he refuses to restore the Snyderverse, and he could literally restore it as an Elseworld project. So we're going to get into all of this news today here on Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. But I want to make it absolutely clear first where I stand on James Gunn, Peter Safran, DC Studios, Zack Snyder, because a lot of you are very, very hard of hearing. You hear somebody talk and you translate it into something else. And I'm going to be very, very straight, direct, and honest with you, because just because someone doesn't say, "Ooh, James Gunn and Peter Safran can do whatever I like, and I'm just going to kneel before them and just accept them replacing my favorite actors because that's what I'm going to do," right? That is fandom in its worst kind. I'm sorry, it is. And I'm sorry if I upset anyone by saying that. So just because I'm an independent speaker with my own views doesn't mean I hate, DC Studios or James Gunn or Peter Safran, or I'm against what they're attempting to do. It's all about the way you choose to do things. You trap more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, and basically Gunn is trying to trap people with vinegar, and that has become a huge problem. Sometimes you're in the entertainment bubble and you don't understand what it's like to be a normal, everyday fan, and that's where the problem is. And let's be absolutely clear here. James Gunn, once upon a time before he was famous and a very successful writer-director, was a fan just like you and me. So let me explain to you where I stand with all of this situation. A messy, misty situation without any context, and with this, the way they even announced that The Rock won't be playing Black Adam in a Black Adam sequel anytime soon. The way they explained it was so bad and misleading yet again, because Hollywood is not honest. They want to pretend they love each other. Well, we know they can't fucking stand each other, right? They call us toxic. They're the most toxic people that have ever been created and put on this beautiful planet that we live on. So this is where I stand on it. I believe the existing DC Extended Universe should be burnt to the floor, and James Gunn and Peter Safran should mould something new and exciting. James Gunn has said on Twitter, responding to a fan, when a fan asked, "Have you been inspired by the original Justice League and Justice League Unlimited animated series?" And James Gunn says, "Of course, that's great. That's exciting." So that's what I want. I agree with a full reboot. I don't believe James Gunn is going to give us a full reboot, and if I'm wrong, I'll be really, really happy. But even though I support the burning to the ground of the old DCEU, I believe that James and Peter can mould something brand new, but also give Zack Snyder the opportunity to finish his Justice League arc in an Elseworld, a little place at DC Studios which has nothing to do with the main timeline. That's my belief, and I think that's fair. I think that James Gunn has handled himself badly on social media. His Twitter thread the other day talking about a certain fandom was very toxic, and that's why I say you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar, and he's going about things the wrong way. I also disagree with the out-of-context teases. I think he's on social media far too much and interacting with far too many fans, but he's going to keep on doing what he's doing. He can only be James Gunn, and I can only be Mick from Movies TV Man and give you my honest, genuine opinions about this situation. So this is where I stand. I understand that the DCEU was a complex clusterfuck, and it's going to take someone very talented to fix that situation. And by God, I hope that Gunn and Safran can sort this mess out. But I believe there's a way you can mold something new but allow Zack to finish what he started. But they're not going to do that. And it's probably nothing to do with Zack himself. They don't want to give the fans the mob mentality, the victory they crave. So it's never going to happen, boys and girls, but you keep on fighting in a good, constructive way. And that's where I stand on it. That's my opinion. So let's get into and let's react, first of all, to the news that James Gunn has fired The Rock as Black Adam. This is what's happened, but James Gunn and The Rock have tried to spin it as we're mates and let's see what happens in the future. Again, this is an out of context situation because people are going to say, hang on a minute. If if The Rock can come back in, part 2 or 3 of the DC universe, what kind of reboot is that actually in the first place? It confuses people even more. Mistake after mistake after mistake. It doesn't mean what James Gunn's putting together is bad. It means he's selling himself in the wrong way, and that's my issue here. Anyway, the Hollywood Reporter are all over this. Let's see what they had to say about this situation. They talk about blistering budgets for Black Adam. The film was an absolute disaster. I think ultimately what we got in movie theatres was solid and okay. But I don't think it was a well-executed movie. You can tell that they went back and reshot things and did more CGI and more action sequences, which kind of saves the movie, but didn't save it financially. Ultimately, Black Adam was never going to make a lot of money. It would have had to have been a very, very good movie. Even Superman couldn't save Black Adam, and that tells you a lot. I also think it's funny how his slogan, the hierarchy of power is about to change in the DC universe, came back to haunt him. I don't think many DC fans will be upset about The Rock not playing Black Adam any longer. And I hope in the future James and Peter announce a brand new actor to play Black Adam. I also want to quickly talk about this situation with Zachary Levi, where there's rumours he's going to be replaced. This is why I believe it's not a full reboot. Now, Zach has come out and said these rumours are not true. Well, I know they're not true, Zach, because you and your 2 films, one we've seen and the other we haven't, is produced by DC Studios co-chair Peter Safran. So you ain't going anywhere. Margot Robbie and the Suicide Squad universe actors are not going anywhere because James Gunn is involved in that universe. And this, my friends, is where it's wrong. And fans complaining about this are absolutely spot on. And I want to say something else about the people who keep on saying, I trust James Gunn, and anyone who says anything against him is bad and toxic. Listen, this is my attitude about it. Henry Cavill doesn't own the role of Superman, and Gal Gadot doesn't own the role of Wonder Woman. But name me one actress who would do a better job than Gal Gadot. Gal is still young. Gal could at least do one more movie. Henry could have done one more movie just to sign off in the right way. But that's never going to happen now. James Gunn denies that Gal's going anywhere. Well, he kind of denies it. So we're going to find out if James Gunn is on the side of the angels or the devil. Is he lying about not getting rid of Gal Gadot? Because if he does replace her, then we know the man's a liar. If he keeps her, it means we can at least trust him. Now, if he's going to reboot the entire universe, I support the firing of Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill and everybody else. But if he's going to keep his mates, and Peter's going to keep his mates, but get rid of Zach's cast, that's very toxic, and that isn't going to work. It's a very messy retooling of the DC universe as far as I'm concerned. So when I hear people say, oh, well, I love Gal, but if she does get fired, I'll get over it. Well, you can't love her that much, can you? If you're just going to accept every fucking decision, if you're going to accept Ta-Nehisi Coates, Ta-Nehisi Coates, if I can get my words out properly, but if you're going to accept Ta-Nehisi Coates doing a black version of Clark Kent because that's what James and Peter want, then you're not really much of a fan. If you're just going to bend over and accept every fucking bad or good decision they make, what kind of fan are you? Just someone who's just going to accept it all? That isn't the way good media, and is made. Now, at the end of the day, when we were young, we had talented, intelligent people making stuff, and it was great. It was brilliant, and we didn't have to police them. We didn't have to fight them because they knew what they were doing. Sometimes they gave us things we didn't think we wanted, but they were awesome. Nobody asked for RoboCop, but it was fucking awesome. Nobody asked for Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he did a lot of great, entertaining, exciting, action-packed movies. It's not about asking us for stuff or wanting stuff. It's about the creative knowing what's right for that moment to do. And that's what's changed in the industry. Now we've got James Cameron talking about rebooting Terminator and making him into a modern day AI. Fucking retire now. Please, James, retire now. These people are not interested in creating anything new, and there lies the problem. I want James Gunn and Peter Safran to succeed and create something special and beautiful, but you can't do that by basically keeping some stuff and getting rid of others. You've got to start again. That's it. So we'll get into the whole thing where he confirms that there are kind of, elseworld kind of movies and projects in development. But first, let's take a look at the situation with Black Adam. Black Adam 2 not moving forward as part of new DC's first chapter. Dwayne Johnson says he has connected with James Gunn and will seek to use the character down the road. Again, out of context. What does that mean? Does that mean we're not getting a full reboot? Does this mean he genuinely is coming back one day? Well, I fucking hope not. And look, let's be honest about it here. The Rock is never going to play Black Adam again, and this statement is already bullshit. So this is by Aaron Crouch and Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter. The hierarchy of power did change at DC, just not in the way Dwayne Johnson intended it. Black Adam, the DC superhero movie that Johnson starred in and produced, was to have launched a new franchise. But Johnson announced Tuesday that plans for a sequel were halted and will not be moving forward anytime soon. Now, this is very, very ironic, considering only 2 weeks ago he was boasting that the film made a $50 million profit and many, many spin-offs were in active development. What happened to those spin-offs, Dwayne? The move comes as new DC Studios bosses James Gunn and Peter Safran, installed just weeks after the movie's October release, reshaped the entire DC slate with projects such as Henry Cavill's Man of Steel sequel and Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 falling by the wayside. James Gunn and I connected, I bet you did, and Black Adam will not be in their first chapter of storytelling. Hey Dwayne, right, I've got an idea. Tell them that you're not part of the first chapter. Don't tell them you're never playing Black Adam again, right? Johnson wrote in a statement Tuesday, however, DC and Seven Bucks have agreed to continue exploring the most valuable ways Black Adam can be utilised in future DC multiverse chapters, with another actor playing Black Adam. Gunn shared his own statement, writing, "I love The Rock." No, you don't. You're lying. "I'm always excited to see what he and Seven Bucks do next." No, you probably never watched the Seven Bucks movie in your life. Can't wait to collaborate soon. This is what he's doing. He's done this with Henry Cavill. He kind of said this about Patty Jenkins as well. This is just bullshit. This is just Hollywood bullshit. And it confuses the fans even further. And this is the element of James Gunn and the way he's conducting himself that I don't like. It's this Hollywood double talk. It's bullshit, everyone. And surely you understand. It's bullshit. Adam, released October 21st, was a passion project for Johnson, who was attached to play the character for a good 15 years before it hit theatres. During that time, Johnson became one of the biggest actors in the world. No, Dwayne Johnson has never been one of the biggest actors in the world. To even call Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson an actor is an insult. And in 2017, used his clout basically to convince Warner Brothers and New Line to develop a solo Black Adam film rather than have the character introduced in Shazam as a villain, which is exactly what should have happened. That's what killed him as Black Adam in the first place. And by the way, if he was the villain in Black Adam or someone else played Black Adam and was just the villain in Shazam, in all the Shazam movies, we would have got something special. We were told there was going to be a coming together in the third Shazam movie. Well, that's never going to happen now, is it now? So yeah, Black Adam is a villain in Shazam's Rogues Gallery. Ahead of its release, Johnson touted plans to develop his own corner of the DC universe centered on Black Adam characters such as the Justice Society of America. Now, their future with James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC universe at DC Studios is going to be very, very interesting. The JSA will have a huge future. Whether it's going to be the actors we saw in this film with other characters cast as well, we'll have to wait and see. As well as a future Black Adam vs Superman movie, a showdown teased in a post-credit scene that temporarily brought Henry Cavill back as Superman for the first time since Justice League 2017. In many promotional appearances, Johnson even used the phrase that became the movie's unofficial tagline as he sought to raise his corner of the DC slate to prominence. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. Yeah, not in the way you want it to though. However, Adam disappointed at the box office. It's important you listen to this. With a 391 million globally and earned poor reviews, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem to launch a sequel if not for several factors. One, the movie was inordinately expensive, greenlit at 190 million. The movie's cost ballooned to the 260 million mark. According to sources, especially after a costly 20-day round of reshoots undertaken after a poor test screening that does not include marketing costs. And I've told you before what those reshoots were. Action, 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 CGI, CGI. That was the stuff that kind of saved the movie in a lot of fans' eyes. The movie will not be profitable theatrically, as noted in a December the 5th Variety story, which then unleashed a tit-for-tat in the press over more detailed accounting of the movie's money-making. With rival Deadline spinning a different tune 2 days later, Johnson weighed in himself about the movie's profitability with a Twitter post, a very unusual move for an actor or producer to make. It also put the actor in a defensive crouch and still talking about a potential franchise regarding a movie whose future even then was very much in doubt. He probably kind of knew even then, 2 weeks ago, when he was touting this bullshit about the film making a 50 million profit and, you know, other Black Adam spin-offs from the JSA, which were never going to happen. But he was touting this bullshit. He actually is a fucking liar. And he's lied about a lot of things, by the way. And let's be clear, the only reason he brought back Henry as Superman wasn't for Henry, wasn't for Superman fans, was to uplift his shit movie. In recent days, rumours swirled about a feud between Johnson and the studio. Reports surfaced that Johnson unfollowed Warner Brothers Discovery and Black Adam channels only to have Johnson come out and say he never followed them in the first place. Is this true? I don't know. Johnson had not publicly commented on the hiring of Gunn and Safran, with many observers pointing to underlying tension between the two camps. I think Johnson and Seven Bunks wanted to lead DC Studios, and thank fuck that didn't happen. You know, during the marketing, I got as excited as we all do during DC marketing campaigns, and I was loving The Rock, and I was excited about this movie, blah, 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 and the chance of seeing Henry's Superman again. But ultimately, now I feel The Rock is the ultimate black artist con man. Howard Johnson noted that the two have a good relationship. He's lying. James and I have known each other for years and have always rooted for each other to succeed. Bollocks. Johnson wrote Tuesday, it's no different now, and I will always root for DC and Marvel to win and win big. Yeah, whatever you say, mate. It all looked very different 2 months ago when Johnson was feeling wistful at Black Adam's New York premiere October the 12th, where he told reporters about his first day in costume. Said the actor, I just took a look in the mirror. It was a very humbling moment because I fought so hard for this movie, to get this movie made and keep it on track. 15 long years, and here we are. By the way, The Rock does like looking at the mirror a lot. And that, my friends, are the details of the firing of Dwayne The Rock Johnson as Black Adam. As I've said, I think most DC fans won't be upset about this. I'm not upset about this. I would have been more upset if he continued on. Now, with the way they've sold this news, where they're going to try and look in the future at how Black Adam can fit into the new DC universe at DC Studios, is a little bit worrying and kind of again hints to not a proper, full reboot. And that's a problem to me. We will wait and see what they do, and we will judge the things as we get them. But for me, I think the only way forward is a full reboot. And the way they've sold this firing of The Rock as Black Adam is terrible, because it is a firing. We will never see him again. Let me be clear here. You or I will never see The Rock play Black Adam again. In a few years' time, they will recast the role if they want to use him. And yes, I think Zachary Levi isn't going anywhere. I don't think Margot Robbie and the rest of the Suicide Squad universe are going anywhere. And this is where the problem is. Basically, Gunn is leaving himself open to criticism. And there lies the problem. I genuinely want him and Peter to succeed and make the right decisions. I'm just not sure they're going to make the right decisions. So I support the firing of The Rock as Black Adam and the cancellation of Black Adam 2, which was never going to happen with the money they spent and what happened behind the scenes with that movie. But I have to say it again so you understand, I support a full reboot. But a full reboot doesn't mean that Zack Snyder can't finish his arc. People are saying to me, we only want one universe. We don't want loads of universes, but it's okay to have Todd Phillips' Joker then and Matt Reeves' the Batman. But when it's Zack Snyder, it's a different story to some of you people and S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's easy. But let's talk about James Gunn's comments, where he was asked about having more movies in the Elseworld divided away from DC Universe, and he said that's actually in kind of planning right now. So if he's planning multiple projects in the Elseworld and he's already got the Joker universe and the Batman universe, why can't he green light the Snyderverse to be restored? Why can't he allow Zack Snyder's universe to finish its story? Well, we've discussed that before. He doesn't want to allow the mob to rule, and that's all well and good. But we're talking about what's right and what's just here, and this is why the Snyder fans are upset. And we do need to discuss this further. You're talking about having Elseworld, other stuff that's not part of DC Universe, but you refuse to restore the Snyderverse. Basically, James Gunn would win a lot of respect if he and Peter Safran and David Zaslav allowed the Snyderverse to be restored and finish off as part of a little Elseworld somewhere else. Doesn't hurt anyone, doesn't interfere. And basically, if you're rebooting the whole thing, this works perfectly, doesn't it? Zack can use Henry, Gal, Ezra, Ray, everyone in his little corner, finish it off. He can do what he wants, and it doesn't interfere with the central universe. This was part of the problem when Zack was kind of trying to come back and finish off the Snyder Cut. There were some things they didn't want him to do because basically his universe and their universe was literally the same thing. Even though Zack said, the Snyderverse is different, literally the Snyderverse was the beginning of the DC Extended Universe. So although it's very different in tone and very different to what Hamada was doing, it was still in the same universe. But if James and Peter are retooling the whole thing, then it makes more sense for Zack to come back and be able to finish what he started. This isn't even really about what the fans want. It's about looking at a director, a very good, nice, talented director, and allowing him to finish what he started. James Gunn has spoken about respecting a director's vision at DC Studios. Well, he's not doing that, is he? The Snyderverse, Justice League 2, Justice League 3 can make money, not the money that the Central Universe will be expected to make, but considering it would be an Elseworld, that would be okay. Apart from the kind of Snyderverse stands going at James, and some of them going at James in the wrong way, and I've spoken about not supporting people keep on going back to the historical tweets because there's no point. Let me just say, There was no one more horrified than me when I saw those historical tweets originally. But the man has stood up. He said his piece about them. He's apologized about them. There's nothing else he can do. You know, I'm all about forgiveness and moving on. If he was to do it again, or if we found out something else about him in that realm, then that would be different. But we haven't. So I'm not interested in all of that, as I've said many times before. But I do believe you're talking about Elseworld here, but you're not willing to restore the Snyderverse. Why not? What does it hurt? As I say, the people saying it confuses matters and we don't want more than one universe, well, we are going to have 3 Bruce Waynes, one in DC Universe, one in Reeves Universe, and one in Phillips Universe, right? 3 Bruce Waynes, right? And you're going to say, well, we can't have another DC Universe with another Superman and another Batman and blah, 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 blah. Literally, Justice League 2 and 3 are another 2 movies. And, you know, you could even let Batfleck do his own movie, right? And that could make money. And you could allow David Ayer's movie to finally be released. What happened to all of that? Apparently, David Ayer and James Gunn are kind of talking these things out. I don't believe James Gunn will ever allow David Ayer to release his Ayer cut. I believe James Gunn has been stringing David Ayer along basically because he wanted his support when he was making his Suicide Squad movie. That's how I see that one. So very, very disingenuous things going on here. So yes, I'm a supporter of restoring the Snyderverse in a little separate corner that doesn't affect the new plan. And I think anyone who's against that is just being bloody minded. Is just being mean and saying, nah, why should he? Why should Snyder come back? We hate Snyder. We hate his fans. We want them to suffer. We don't want the Snyderverse to be finished. I think you're being bloody minded here for the sake of it because you don't like certain fans in that community. Well, you can like and dislike people all you want. But the fact is that if James and Peter are moulding something new centrally, then allowing Zack to come back in that corner, despite what the fans have said to James and all of that, forget that. This is about 2 directors, James Gunn and Zack Snyder, respecting each other. There's no one more respectful than Zack Snyder, who just gets on with his job, doesn't talk about politics, doesn't talk about this, doesn't talk about that. A very pure, good person who's actually, in fact, a very talented creative who had something very, very wrong done to him. And it wouldn't take much to fix this and solve this problem. And to solve the bad feeling, you want to reboot, but allow the man to finish what he started. It literally doesn't interfere with what you're planning. You've already got rid of, basically you've got rid of The Rock, who has nothing to do with Snyder's world anyway. But you've got rid of Henry Cavill. So he can be in that little corner with Zack Snyder and finish Zack's vision. And we can see Henry in a couple of more movies. Wouldn't that be awesome? But your central Superman will be totally different. And everyone would be happy here. Some people would be unhappy because the woke brigade would be going, oh, you're letting the mob threaten you and intimidate you, blah, blah, blah. No. As I said earlier, you trap more flies with honey than you do vinegar. Because if you do this, you make the Snyderverse stands happy. They support you and they say you're a good guy. And everyone wins here. But we live in a society today which is very political and very hateful. And there has to be different sides. And there has to be the Snyderverse stands. And there has to be the gun stands. And everyone's shouting at each other. And I'm not interested. I'm not a pie eater. I like eating pies depending on what's in the middle of those pies. But I'm not a pie eater. I don't want to argue about everything and create wars. Basically, you can reboot the DCEU and reboot the DCU. You can retool DC basically, but still allow Snyder in his little corner to finish what he started. There's nothing. Allowing him to do that doesn't hurt anything. And if you're not going to allow him to do that, as I say, you are just being bloody minded, mean and vindictive because you have the power to say no. And by doing this, the Snyderverse stands are going to keep on going and going and going, and it's never ever going to end. And James Gunn will find it very, very difficult to plough this environment if he doesn't just let Zack do what he needs to do. And as I say, I don't like the mob rule either, but at the end of the day, they do have a point. There's a reason why the Snyderverse stands are so aggressive, because of the way they were treated during BVS. They were bullied for even liking that movie. You created the monsters you hate. Everyone can be happy here. Everyone can get what they want. It really isn't that difficult, but it's not going to happen because we live in a world of divided people. And that, my friends, is a very sad realization of the world we live in today. This has been Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.